What's up, guys? Ask and you shall receive. Today we are doing an unboxing of the Goat Power Bike's King Goat. It's kind of a hybrid between our Dirt Goat and our typical in our e-bike geometric frames. So it's going to have that big battery, that high voltage of the Dirt Goat, but in the frame of an e-bike. So let's get this thing unboxed and check it out. Wow, check this thing out, guys. This is exactly what you guys asked for. We have a mid-drive 72 volt powered e-bike that's going to blow away everything else of its kind. Check out here, we have our toolkit. We have a charger so big it has a handle on it. And then just like all the other e-bikes, we have our light, our rear view mirror brackets, our wheel spacers, blinkers, and our front fender. So I think the first step we're going to take is we're going to put on the handlebars. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, to put on the handlebars, we're going to take out our toolkit. We're going to get out our Allen key set. We're going to get our number 6 Allen key, move these 4 bolts at the top of the bike. Once we have those undone, we take our handlebars, make sure we orient them properly. We're just going to flip them on top of the bike like so that all the cables and wiring harness is in front of the frame. Once we have it all tightened by hand, we can go ahead and tighten it with our Allen key again, making sure that we evenly tighten each bolt. We don't want one side of the stem mount to be tighter than the other side. All right, once we have the handlebars on, give it a good push forward and back, make sure it's not loose at all. And next, we're going to position the bike forward, just to kind of get it out of the box a little bit. So let's move this stuff aside. All right, next we're going to put on the front wheel to kind of get this bike shaped, all set and done. So to put on the front wheel, we're going to first need to take off this axle and the little placeholder that we have here. So we're going to loosen the through axle bolt. In your case, if you take the bike out of the box and this bolt is spinning with the other side, all you have to do is just tighten these down a little bit, loosen this up until it's out, and then we can go ahead, loosen these bolts right here. Once these bolts are loose, it is going to allow us to remove the axle itself. We don't have to remove them, but just loosen them. Now, the easiest course of action to get this front wheel on is actually going to be to flip the bike upside down. So we want to just check which brake is our front and rear. So we're going to lift it up using the brake. And then just be careful of the display controller right here. I usually like to just flip it down just so that we don't damage anything, but we'll gently put the bike down. On the cardboard. And now we can install the front wheel a lot easier. But before we install the front wheel, we're gonna wanna put on the brake rotor. These are Torx bolts, so we're going to need a Torx set. Here we're going to get out our rotor. Let's open the box. That's a big rotor, a 220 millimeter rotor. It's going to allow us lots and lots of stopping power. So let's go ahead and get this on. All right, once we have all the bolts off, we can kind of just line up the rotor. And yes, there is a front facing side, and that's just going to be the side with the numbers on it. And you'll see that there's an arrow with the direction. Once we get it lined up, we'll tighten these by hand first. Be careful not to get any greasy or oily fingers on the actual perimeter of the disc, just because it could cause for some squeaking, but you should be all right. All right, now for brake rotors, we want to tighten it down as evenly as possible. So what I like to do is I just like to do it mismatched. So we'll tighten this left side first, and then we'll tighten the right one next. And then from here, we'll go diagonal. Just try and avoid tightening the bolt next to the bolt you just tightened. Always go across or diagonal. All right, before we go ahead and put the wheel on, we're gonna need a few essential pieces. It's going to be our through axle bolt, and then the 2 spacers for the wheels. So let's go ahead and bring the wheel over here. Now, before we can put the wheel on, we have to remove this little brake pad safety. This prevents the brake pads from closing up on you so that you can actually get the wheel on. So let's remove that. And we're going to have the smaller spacer on the brake side. Otherwise, if we had the big spacer over here, the rotor wouldn't fit in there. So it might be kind of difficult, but if you're able to line them up, it can be pretty solid. So I'm going to start out with just one in my hand. Just set the wheel in, put in the disc through the brake pads. Hopefully you just get lucky and line it up. And then, well, don't put it in all the way, but we will put it in like that. Twist this over, put our other spacer in, line it up with the other side of the fork, and check that out. We have the front through axle in. What we're going to do is just tighten this up. We're going to need our 6mm again. And this is very important, guys, so watch right here. Let's tighten this up. You'll notice it gets tight and then it might start spinning on both sides. Once we have it pretty tight, we are going to refasten these little through axle safety fasteners on both sides. So just tighten these down on both sides. This is going to hold the through axle in place no matter what. Even if the fastener were to fall out, it would still hold the through axle in. So we'll do that on both sides. All right, and once that is complete, we can come over here again and just make sure it's tightened down. And yep, it is. And perfect. All right, so that was a lot easier of a process than trying to hold the bike up with it upright and putting the wheel on like that. By flipping it upside down, it's a lot easier to put it on. And there's a misconception out there that flipping the bike upside down is bad for the brakes. It is not bad for the brakes. What can happen is if you flip the bike upside down, if there is air in the system, it will flow up into the calipers. And then when you flip the bike over upright again, the brake levers might feel squishy. That's completely normal. It happens on almost all bikes. If there is any air in the system, all you have to do is just pump the brakes for about a minute or so until they feel firm again, and then you're all set. But there's definitely no issue with flipping the bike upside down. It's perfectly fine. That's exactly how you would fix a flat tire on a e-bike, unless you have a moto stand. Before we flip the bike back upright, let's go ahead and put on the kickstand. It looks like this kickstand has a wire attached to it. This is going to be our kickstand safety. So basically the bike will not allow you to go if the kickstand is down. So here's the wire that it attaches to. It's on the other side. So what we'll do is we will just fish it right through here. And then we'll attach the kickstand and then we'll plug it in. But let's first attach the kickstand. It looks like it's going to be a 5mm Allen key. All right, we're gonna line up our kickstand and fasten it in. I like to do it by hand just to ensure no cross threading. Just get it started by hand and then you're set. All right, once we have those all fastened, we'll give them a little tug. Just give it a nice little tighten. Kickstands are known for braking on e-bikes, which is why I applaud GOAT for going with a much heavier duty kickstand. I mean, if you break this thing, then that's just user error at that point. But for most e-bikes, they use cheap plastic kickstands, not with this one. So when we go to plug in our kickstand cable, or wire I should say, we're just going to line up the arrows and just gonna plug in just like that. And before we completely finish, I probably will just zip tie these down just so that it's nice and neat. It's fine otherwise, but it's always good to just zip tie it down so it doesn't get caught on anything. All right, here we go, flipping the bike upright again. I'm just going to pick them up from the handlebars and just flip it over. And check that out, even though it was upside down for almost over 10 minutes, you can see the brake levers are still perfectly fine. There's no air in the system, so there's nothing to worry about. But if they were squishy, you would just pump them and they'd come right back to life. All right, let's go ahead and install the headlight up front, and we'll also install the blinkers. Of course, again, it's gonna be another 5mm. Just loosen these up. We'll just line up with the front holes on this bracket because the back holes will be for the blinkers. Before you finalize putting on the headlight, there is a upside down way of putting it on. It's just that, just look at the lettering on the headlight and you can see if it's facing upright or upside down. All right, here we have our 5mm again. Just tightening this headlight up. All right, we'll just tighten it up on both sides and then we will plug it in. Very easy to plug in. We're just going to line up the plug with the headlight into the wire harness and that's it. So here we go, let's find it. Here it is right here, the green plug. We're going to match with the other green plug, line up the arrows and just plug it in. There it is, it's all set. And then now we'll go ahead and install the turn signals. Now there definitely is a right and wrong way to put these. This is a projector at the bottom. It's going to kind of illuminate the floor when you hit the blinkers. So just make sure that those are facing down. If we had them this way, it'd be facing up. So we just want to be facing down. Feed the wire through the hole. And then we can come in here, feed that nut through the wire again. Let me just tighten it down by hand for now, while we do the other side. Very straightforward and easy. Fasten it down. Cool, now once it's fastened down, we can plug it into the two other orange plugs on the wire harness. And I'll show you guys in a few minutes how we will know if you plug them into the right plug. But there we go, now we have the headlight and turn signals installed. All right, now next we can install the fender and that will conclude everything for the front end of the bike. Looks like it's just pretty straightforward and easy. We're just going to line this up with the bottom of the fork. Remove that. That looks like it's also going to be a 5mm. Now we have the two bolts, make sure you don't lose the washers. Here's the orientation. The longer part is going to be going in the front. So once we've removed our bolts from the fork, you can just line up the holes and just thread them in by hand. There we go. Very straightforward, simple and easy install. This will be quick. Like always, the bike comes 75% assembled, making it a nice and easy, usually quick process to get everything installed, not too worrisome about it. You can give it a little wiggle, perfect, and it's all set. All right, now that we have the front fender, light, and turn signals installed, to conclude the front end, we're going to just install our rear view mirrors. So the brackets came in a bag. So we're just going to take those and just fasten them to the handlebars. We can use one of the wrenches provided in the toolkit to tighten this down afterwards. All right, cool. We'll take our smallest wrench that was provided in the toolkit. We can use that to tighten these down. All right, once those are fastened down, you might be thinking, well, where are the mirrors? They are hidden inside the bike. This is where the battery is going to go, and we'll do that at the end. Check out that battery plate, that thing is sick. All right, we'll just set that aside. And here are the rear view mirrors. All right, we're going to just put on our lock washer. Fasten it by hand first, like always. Looks like this is going to be a 6mm Allen key. There we go. Tighten it down. Cool. Do it for both sides. And that will completely conclude the front end of the bike. We got the fender, headlight, turn signals, and now rear view mirrors installed. Now let's install the pedals. Should be pretty quick and easy. Now there is a right side for each pedal. Do not forcibly put on the pedals, otherwise you will cross thread the cranks, and then you will have to buy a new crank. So this one says right side pedal. This one is the left. There's a little L on it. What I like to do is just know that it's gonna go opposite, so if we roll it backwards, we can just, this side is going to be like a regular righty-tighty, but the other side will not be. Once we have it on, I'm just gonna hold the pedal in place, twist it around, and now it's all the way in, but we still need to tighten it. But first, let's go put on the other side. Now this one is going to be lefty-tighty. There we go. Rotate it backwards. All right, let's see. So for the wrench, looks like it's going to be like our medium-sized wrench set. We're going to use the 15 and just tighten it down. That one's tight. Same with this side. Give it a nice tighten, and you're all set. Now it's last, but certainly not least, we're going to install the battery. Check out this huge box it comes in. Jeez, it's a legendary chest. Yes, guys, you are seeing this correctly. The battery is so heavy duty and important, we have to contain it in a wooden box. All right, so I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver. Kind of just bend these up. Dude, this is like how it is. It's literally, like you see this, it's like latched down like this. All right, and the unveiling. It's even strapped down and everything. Now that we have the battery out of that container, we're going to leave these little bumpers on, and I'm just going to lift it up here. I'm going to plug it in. All right, now that we have the battery plugged into the actual bike, there's one more thing to plug in, and that's going to be the charging cable. What this is going to allow us to do is plug in this to the battery so that we can charge from this external port right here, so that we don't have to remove the battery every time we want to charge it. We're just going to make sure this lines up properly. Here we go. All right, now that's plugged in. We can try and tuck this kind of away. There we go. Now it's all in. Of course, we want to make sure that we click the on button. So make sure that button is pressed down. Before we put the plate back on, we just want to make sure that the bike actually turns on itself. So let's turn the ignition and hold the power button. There we go. Looks like the bike is turning on. So we have the battery connected properly and everything. Cool, so let's go ahead and put this back on. All right, now that we have the plate back installed and all the bolts tightened by hand, we can go ahead and tighten it with this nice wrench that was provided. Check out that nice clean design. Have this nice battery plate that sits flush with the frame. Can't even see the battery. Very nice. And like I said before, there's no need to ever take this apart again unless you have to replace the battery, but we have a charging port right here, so there's no need to take this apart once you tighten it down. Now that we have the battery installed, the bike is all set and ready to ride, but we need to check a few more things. So it looks like right here, these are, it looks like our brake sensors. So let's go ahead and just plug those in. Both of them are unplugged. So yeah, let's go ahead and plug those in and let's take it out for a ride. All right, before we take it for a test ride, we want to check a few safety things. So let's just make sure that our tires are inflated. Those feel good. If you're ever curious about the recommended tire pressure, it will always state somewhere on the side of the tire. So once we check those out, make sure that those are all good. We know that those are safe. Let's check our brakes. Brakes are working. The brakes might be weak at first just because they're brand new pads and rotors, so they kind of need to break into each other to really work at 100%. But those are working, so those are good. And just the steering, the headset of the bike, we just want to make sure that that's all tight. So see right there, I didn't tighten this down enough, so glad we checked it, because the last thing we want to do is be going at high speed and the handlebars shoot forward. So we're gonna take our 6mm Allen key again and just tighten those down a little bit better. Once those are fastened down, I always like to check these little stem bolts as well, make sure that those are tight. They feel nice and tight. And then we can do the test one more time, really push on it. Feels good, it's not going anywhere. All right, so let's check this thing out. To get started, we're gonna get on the bike, check brakes again, and now the bike is not going to go until we flip up the kickstand due to that kickstand sensor. Click the plus, we can put it in eco, normal, or max torque, and then we can go right ahead. Woo! That thing rips, and those 4-piston brake calipers are insane. The braking power is nuts on this, and they're not even broken in yet. I'm super excited to ride this thing. It's gonna be super fun.